Hello everyone, welcome to Slipjoint Sawyer. Today we're going to be doing a look at an older Swiss Army knife, 58mm. We're looking at the Caddy. It has been long discontinued, but we're also going to be doing a bit of a restoration on it. You can see the scales are looking a little worse for wear, and we also have a sort of the tip snapped off the pen blade, so we're going to be addressing that as well. We'll go over some specs of the knife and then we'll jump into the restoration. So 58mm design, about 2.3 inches in close length. See that just there. We have the standard red Cellidor with the inlaid shield, and you can see that wonderfully inlaid on there, absolutely smooth. You can just about feel it as you go over the scales. You can see someone has carried and loved this. The amount of sort of micro scratches on that Cellidor is pretty extreme. We have a keyring on there as well. Standard red Cellidor on the back, and you may notice this little tab here, and you can see the slot. If you just push that forward, nice little retractable pen. We also get the tweezers on the front scale, just the standard Victorinox tweezers. You get the 58mm scissors, of course. See, slightly newer one. Age in this may be around so the Caddy was brought back in about 2012 with a retractable pen, which is what this one has. Prior to this they had a removable pen, pretty similar to what you would get on the Plus models, but of course a lot smaller for this. But scissors as well are pinned together, so you can tell they're slightly newer. We have the mini divot tool. Nice little nail neck on there, classic Victorinox tumbled polished finish. And then finally we have the pen blade. So you've got the 4-layer tang stamp design, Victorinox Switzerland stainless Rossfry. Do have the cat's eye nail neck on there, and there's still quite a good edge on there. It looks like it's from factory, if I'm honest. Doesn't look like it's been resharpened, but it's definitely been used. I mean, you can see the edge there, how dull it is. I mean, I can run my finger down it and it's not going to cut me. But what I'm going to do with this blade is I'm thinking about, I'm either going to try and round it out to a very small point, or I might just go full sort of sheep's foot blade on it, and I think I'll just take the corner off like that. We'll sort of see as we go. But we'll start with the sort of aesthetics and the, the function of the knife to begin with. See, there's a little bit sluggish on the scissors, and you can see it's pretty grotty on the inside there. But very interesting model, the Caddy. So the model number for it is 0.6245, and then if you're in the US, they had slightly different model numbers, so it's 53711. But we're just going to go through. I'll try not to pause it too much. I want to try and get as much of the restoration process as possible, sort of in just like a long form, really. But before we jump into that, I want to give a big shout out to Steve over at Parac Cordia UK. I got in touch with him. He also makes the coins for Dan over at Blade Bridge, and he had my logo laser etched on these really wonderful little wooden coins. He's done a fantastic job. Look at the detail on that. He is on Instagram. You can see he's got his email, his Facebook, Instagram, his TikTok, and then if you pause the video and take a screenshot, you can scan this QR code and it'll take you to his pages. We'll just leave that up in the top corner up there. But some of these will be included in giveaways, some will be sent out at random, and they will also be available at Sharp Show. And these are free, there's no charge for those, just a little token if anybody wants one. But let's jump right into it. So the first thing I like to do is get rid of the keyring, because that can be a pain sometimes when you're trying to use it. We'll put that somewhere safe. Let's put it up there out of the way, and we will also take the tweezers off. Now, people have different methods for taking these scales off here. Generally, I normally use a small sort of pen blade to take them off, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So this is the brass climber I've been carrying the last sort of week or two. Fantastic model made up by Dan at Blade Bridge. So the best way of doing this, please excuse me, I'm trying to do this through the camera. Sort of just stick the blade in like that and just carefully prise up, and you can just go along very carefully like that, and then the same with the other side. Just get underneath there and very carefully, but you don't want to do it too quickly, otherwise you'll sort of break off the tabs for those pins. And you can see, I mean, gross. that's picked up absolute filth on there, and it's really sticky as well. So not sure what that is, but we're going to go ahead and get rid of all that. Yeah, there's some sort of filth on there. Interesting, this side with the pen, they've gone for a full back. I didn't notice that on any of the models. Normally they have exposed the same as this side all the way around, but you can see got the closed off edge. I know that probably makes it easier for it to sort of move around and get traction, but we'll start with the scales before we jump into any cleaning on that. So can we tell the age from this one? It looks like it's going to be a 2012 based on the number up here. Anything on this scale to help us? No, I don't think there's anything underneath here. No, so I'm going to go ahead and say that's a 2012. Now I could be completely wrong, but it's the only sort of age marking I can find on there. Some sort of gunk in the groove down here we want to get rid of as well. See, the tabs are all still in pretty good shape. Honestly, I'm probably just going to polish these. I'm not going to go too mad with any wet sanding. I'm going to leave the age-related marks on them. But to start with, what I like to do is just get a little bit of cleaner. So for this, I am just going to use a little bit of just water and soap, basically. I've just put it in a little bottle to make it easier for me to use. So I can sort of just dip the toothbrush in the end. And we're just going to sort of scrub these. Nothing too major really. It's not in terrible shape. I've had Swiss Army knives in a lot worse shape than this, but it's nice to sort of bring them sort of back to their former glory. Now I'm not going to do it's not going to be a full restoration by any means. It's mainly just going to be cleaning off the filth and making it so it's going to have a nice sort of home in a collection. And now of course this is infinitely slippery because you've got soap on it. So yeah, nothing too major really with the scales. They're all pretty good condition, pretty good shape, and we're just going to sort of dry them off on a microfiber. Like that. Sorry, knocked the camera. Put that one up out of the way, and then we're just going to get to work on this one, so a bit more soapy water. Let's see if we can get some of that gunk out from it. So yeah, that's come off pretty quickly, so whatever it wasn't too stubborn, so that's good. That nice clean up. I always find toothbrushes are sort of the perfect thing for working on Swiss Army knives, because they're not too abrasive, but they're sort of abrasive enough that you can get the junk off. I think it's pretty good. Just give it a bit of a scrub on the front. Not that it was too bad. Struggle to pick it up again, and then give it a wipe on the cloth. Okay, so they're looking pretty good. Just enough to get the junk out really, nothing major really needed with that. So put that at the top with that one, sort of wipe off the excess rubbish while moving everything about like an absolute idiot. And we can sort of get to work on the knife now. So I'll give it a bit of a scrub, but I think this may need a bit more of a heavy duty clean to get that sort of stuff off, but we'll give it a go. May have to go for the full degreaser to get that off. Yeah, it needs a bit more persuading on there, so I think we'll just go for a bit of this sort of emery cloth, because it's underneath the scale, so it's not going to matter too much under there. But let's just scrub away at that. Just working off all that dirt, and this is actually working fantastically well. But obviously now I've scrubbed this off, all that dirt and junk is going to go on in that groove on the front, so we're going to have to clean that out. So I will have to go off camera and flush it out under some soapy water, but it's doing a pretty good job for this. I won't be taking too much off, just enough. You can see that's all come off there. What the channel's like, yeah, not great. See if we can get something inside there to do some scraping out of that. Okay, now will this fit in there? Okay, bonus, that fits in there. Oh wow, well that worked a treat. We'll definitely be doing that again in the future. So just sort of squeezing it together to get it to sort of fit in the groove, and just sort of going back and forth with it. And I've cut myself on the metal, of course I have. And we got blood. Nah, nothing there. So you can see we have nice sort of clean enough to give it a rinse out anyway. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause it here, go rinse it off the camera, and then we'll come back and address the action, and then we'll finally get onto the blade. Okay, so that took maybe 30 seconds of moving the blades underwater, and the snap is all back to what you'd expect from Victorinox. No more laziness on that pair of scissors. Nice snap on all of that. Scissors working perfectly. Just pretty impressed with, for the age and the sort of neglect this has had, that it had that good action when it turned up. As I picked this up from Etsy, and I was kind of expecting the blades to be seized closed with how sort of dirty it looked, but yeah, happy with this. Okay, so we'll get on with polishing the scales, and then we'll move on to the blades. So the best way to do this, I find, is generally just to put them back on the knife. It gives you a bit more purchase. What's it like in here? Is that okay? That's not bad. So that just slots back in there like that, and you can see the way that works. It just sort of goes over here and then stops in that channel, stops the pen retracting, and you lift it up to move it back. So I believe that was on the back of the knife. Trying to do this on camera as well. Snapped on there nicely. Yep, all the way around. And then the front scales. And these can sometimes be a bit of a pain to snap back on, but they seem to have gone pretty well. Just give it a bit of a push just to make sure it's all on there, and looks pretty good. So we're just going to use a little bit of Auto Sol, really. It is a metal polish, but I'm not going to be using a whole lot of it, and it will be fine just to sort of give the scales a little bit of a buff. So I'm just going to put a little sort of dot on the end like that, and then we're just going to sort of dab it down and then just sort of work back and forth with it, really. Nothing rocket science about it, just back and forth like that. Just enough to pick up the dirt on the top, so you can see there's still a bit of dirt on those scales. So we're just going to go like this. Just work it in. Not going for mirror polish, just enough so it looks sort of clean. So whenever I'm restoring an older knife, or even just sort of refurbishing or refreshing, I guess this is, I don't want to take the history away. I just want to sort of bring it back for it to be usable, similar to what I did if you caught my video on restoring the Ulster Scout knife. That's pretty much what I did. I didn't want to take off any of the history. I just wanted to sort of make it look a little bit better. So it's a nice little shine on there now, and then we'll work on the other side, and that's pretty much all that we'll need. Nothing major, just probably way too much on there, but we'll go with it. I always find with Cellidor, if you sort of, I know swirling isn't the best, but to get a quick result, if you do swirling, then just go to back and forth to sort of buff out those swirls. It works quite well. And then give it a nice buff. Like that. And then what you want to do with any sort of polish is make sure you buff it off afterwards. So although it looks like it's come off, you'll see that when you rub it, some dirt still does come off. So just sort of watching that, making sure there's nothing sort of caught all around there. That's pretty good. Put that to one side. That turned out pretty good. See, there's still the age-related marks I wanted to keep. Next up is the big issue of addressing the blade. I'm not a big fan of adjusting the blades. I kind of like the look of the pen blade, but obviously with a big chunk like that, I think I'm just going to as I said at the start of the video, I'm just going to sheep's foot it, I think, and just go from the very end of the nail neck and just flat straight down. To do that, I'm not going to use anything sort of too special. I've just got like a metal file here. I'm just going to sort of have it down like this, and then I'm just going to hold the blade upside down and just sort of work it back and forth like this until I've got the desired sort of angle I want. But I will do that off camera because that will sound horrendous, so I'll catch you in a minute. Okay, I'm back. So that took maybe 5-10 minutes. Just didn't want to go too quickly with it, as I didn't want to snap the blade, but I did sort of pinch it in a vise between some rubber just to hold it really still. And this is the sort of the final outcome. So it's gone sort of sheep's footy. You can see I've just sort of scored that down, but I've left it so there's enough of a curve up at the end just to get a nice little tip on it. All that really needs to be done with this now, it needs to be oiled, which we might as well just go ahead and do that now. So using some of the twisted assisted food safe knife oil, sort of especially for me, as I do use my knives to sort of, that's way too much, food, or if I'm having any sort of fruit, I do sort of cut it with that. I realise that was blurry, apologise. And just sort of work that oil in. And the same with the other tool, just work the joints. And what will help as well, that oil will help flush out any sort of impurities or any sort of small particles that couldn't get out in the flush wash, as it will sort of stick to it and work it out on the tangs. So yeah, you can see it's working out a little bit of oil there, but it's quite clean, so I'm happy that there's nothing too disgusting in there. Again, there's oil on the tang of that one, and that's clean as well, which is excellent. So all is left to do now is to give it a sharpen. Now I would normally use, for a reprofile, the Worksharp Pro Sharpener, but that's way too small for this. So I'm obviously not going to get my whetstones out to do one little SD blade or Caddy blade. So I do generally just use my chef's steel. It's a diamond steel. It works perfectly for Swiss Army knife steel. So I would just sort of hold it on the bench like that and just sort of work the blade up and down like this until we get a nice sort of edge. So I'm going to do that off the camera and then we'll come back. And we're back. So that's all nicely been stropped and sharpened. See, nice little edge on there now. Nothing too heavy. It's only a little tiny blade, don't anything too major. I actually quite like the look of a little sheep's foot blade now, you know. That might be quite cool to have on a Swiss Army knife in the future. Obviously done better than mine, but for sort of a first attempt at doing that, I think I've done a pretty decent job. All that's left to do now is put the tools back in and the tweezers on, and we're good to go. Slot them in the front. Now will be the fun part, trying to do this behind a camera. These are always an absolute pain. There we go. Awesome. 58mm Victorinox Caddy. Nice pickup from Etsy. Did have a snap blade, but we've restored that. Nice edge on there now. Nothing too major. Re-oiled, cleaned. Nice little piece to add to the collection. Quite unique tools on this one as well. Obviously it's designed just for golfers. You get the tweezers and of course you get the pen on the back there. But there we go guys, I really hope you enjoyed my sort of restoration or refresh of the Victorinox Caddy. It's a 58mm, model number again is 0.6245, or if you're from the US is 53711. Please be sure to like, subscribe and ring that bell for notifications, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.